The gate at the end of Miller's Hollow Road had been closed for 3 years. On a cold morning in late October, 6 people stood outside it, saying nothing. Behind the gate sat a barn that glowed gold under work lights, stacked floor to ceiling with slabs of black streaked maple, each one worth more than the truck that once dumped them there as garbage. A woman moved between the stacks with a moisture meter, checking numbers, writing them down. Nobody at the gate spoke. One man took off his cap, but to understand what they were seeing, you have to go back 4 years, to the day Alan Marsh did something everyone in the county said was a mistake. Sometimes the thing people call ruined is only unfinished. Subscribe for more true stories like this, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Alan Marsh was 47 years old, a retired high school shop teacher living on 11 acres outside Peacham, Vermont. Her husband had died 2 years earlier, leaving behind a small woodworking shop and $19,000 in unpaid supplier debt. The shop had one working table saw and a leaking roof. Her brother-in-law, Curtis Marsh, 41, had spent 20 years as a working carpenter and knew joints, grind, and tools better than anyone in 3 towns. Curtis believed in his hands. Alan believed in numbers, texture, and patience, things Curtis dismissed as teacher talk. One afternoon, watching a truck from the Bishop sawmill dump a load of discolored maple slabs onto her back lot for free disposal, Alan said quietly, "Wood doesn't fail. People just don't know how to wait for it." Curtis laughed and kept splitting kindling. The maple wasn't rotten. It was spotted infected by fungi like Xylaria polymorpha, which draw thin black lines called zone lines through the wood as different fungal colonies compete for territory. Left unchecked, spalting eventually turns wood soft and unusable. But if the drying process is interrupted at the right moment through controlled kiln drying, the fungus dies, the structure holds, and the wood is left with a marbled, one-of-a-kind pattern that fine furniture makers pay a premium for. Aileen had read about it in a forestry journal 11 years earlier and never forgotten it. She said nothing to Curtis. She simply began stacking the slabs with wood spacers, 3 inches apart, to control airflow. Walt Pruitt, 63, ran the sawmill and had 40 years of experience reading wood by eye. He drove out to see what Ellen was doing with his garbage. He walked the stacks, shook his head, and said, "That maple's finished, Aileen. You're wasting your winter." Aileen only nodded and kept working. By December, people at the feed store were calling her land the Slab Laddie's junkyard. She never argued the name. She just kept stacking, checking, and turning the slabs every 11 days. In late January, Ellen cut into one slab to check the interior. The black zone lines ran through pale wood in a pattern like frozen lightning, dense, even, structurally sound. She ran her thumb across the grain for a long moment. She told no one, not even Curtis. She wrapped the slab in a moving blanket and set it in the corner of the shop, waiting. In March, the bank sent a letter. The $19,000 debt from her husband's estate was due in full within 90 days, or the property would face foreclosure. The same week, the shop's second table saw motor burned out. And the rumor spread through Peacham that Ellen was going to lose the land by summer. Curtis drove 40 miles to a salvage yard for a used motor. Working past midnight 3 nights in a row to get the saw running again. One night, exhausted, Ellen sat on an overturned bucket and said, "Maybe Walt was right. Maybe I've been stacking rot for 4 months." Curtis, tightening a belt by flashlight, said only, "You've been right about wood before. Don't stop now." Aileen didn't sleep much that week. She kept 2 ledgers, one for debt, one for drying schedules, and refused to let either fall behind. A second cold snap threatened to crack 3 of the largest slabs before they finished curing. So she and Curtis built a makeshift insulated enclosure from scrap plywood and worked in the cold at 4 in the morning to save them. The slabs held. Through the debt, the broken saw, and the whispers around town. The wood inside that barn kept curing exactly the way the Forestry Journal said it would. Part 6, Reconciliation. By the second week of June, Walt Pruitt came back, uninvited, in his own truck. He walked into the barn, ran his hand along a finished tabletop Ellen had built from one of the first slabs, and stood quietly for almost a minute. "I was wrong about this," he said. "Bring the rest to my mill." EAJ cut them through, no charge. He spent the following Saturday helping Curtis resurface 2 warped boards, working without much talk, just handing over tools when they were needed. Aileen thanked him. She didn't gloat. She just handed him a coffee and kept sanding. Ward moved slowly, the way it does in small towns. A neighbor down the road, who had once joked about the junkyard, brought over a cracked oak stump and asked if it could be saved the same way. Another woman from the feed store started a small notebook of her own, copying down Ellen's drying schedule by hand. By September, 3 separate customers had placed orders for spalted maple tables. And the conversation at the feed store had shifted from jokes about Ellen's barn to questions about moisture meters and airflow. What looks worthless or weak is often only misunderstood, waiting for someone patient enough to see what it could still become. A discarded load of stained maple became furniture worth building a business around, not through luck, but through months of quiet, deliberate attention nobody else was willing to give it. Ellen's early words, spoken almost as a joke on the day the slabs were dumped, meant something different by the following autumn. Wood doesn't fail, people just don't know how to wait for it. The debt was paid in full that November. The barn stayed standing. The name people once used to mock her became the name of her company. If this reminded you that patience is its own kind of skill, leave a comment below. Subscribe for more stories about people who were right before anyone else believed them.